Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Brain Blueprint segment brought to you by the Melillo Centers. Today's conversation sits at the intersection of science and storytelling, and it's about changing the way we see autism. Our guest is Kate Swenson, founder of Finding Cooper's Voice, which is a global community of over 1.5 million people. She's the author of the bestselling books Forever Boy and Autism Out Loud, and the co-founder of The More Than Project, which provides critical mental health resources for caregivers. Kate has become a leading voice for mamas out there, caregivers and families navigating the challenges and triumphs of autism. Joining me, as always, is my co-contributor, Dr. Robert Melillo, world-renowned expert in childhood neurological disorders, professor, best-selling author of Disconnected Kids, and creator of the Melillo Method, which has transformed the lives of thousands of families. Together, we're going to explore how personal storytelling and neuroscience can work hand in hand to break stigma and build strength. Kate, welcome to the show, superstar.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Dr. Melillo, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Zen. Thank you.
Okay, so Kate, I'm going to start with you. When you launched Finding Cooper's Voice back in 2014, you did it in secret from your living room, just looking for a safe space. And today, that space has grown into a global community of over 1.5 million people. I mean, that's the power of vulnerability turned into leadership. Good job. What was the turning point when you realized your personal story could heal not only yourself, but millions of other families?
I was honestly so scared. I had this beautiful baby, first-time mom, and he was not developing typically. And I looked at my friends and my family and other kids I knew, and Cooper was so different. And I lived in a very rural area, and I thought, if I just start sharing just small little bits, maybe I can find other people like us. I had no idea it would grow into what it did. I felt like I had the only child with autism. That's really what it felt like. And then I started sharing and people started coming to me.
That's incredible. And it's proof that storytelling isn't just sharing, it's a service. And I'm reminded of Brene Brown, who said owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we'll ever do. And you're living that truth. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Melillo.
Yeah. So Kate, obviously I've worked with a lot of moms and parents, and one of the things that I think you've written about is that you had to understand the way your son's brain works, the way he, looks at things. And how has that shaped your care? Because obviously it's also a journey for what can I do for him? How can I help him?
Autism was really presented to us as something to overcome. It was presented as this sad, dark thing you don't want. You want your child to be different. You want them to be better. And so I'm a very hardworking, very focused project manager by trade. I was like, I got this. I can do this. I can do everything they tell me to do and we'll be fine. It doesn't work like that. You're playing a game with no rules. You're playing a game all by yourself in crisis most of the time. And it eventually hit me that honestly, I was missing Cooper's life. I was trying to make him into something he wasn't. And it broke me in a lot of ways. I hit my bottom and I started meeting him where he was at and celebrating who he was. Of course, working on safety, working on the things, communication, all those important parts. But I stopped trying to change who he was.
Yeah. And I think that you have found not only your safe space, but one of the things that really resonates with me is the More Than Project and the retreats you created for caregivers. Because in the US, there's over 53 million people. They serve as unpaid caregivers. And studies show that they're twice as likely to suffer from anxiety and depression. So pivoting to my next question, why do you believe caregiver mental health needs to be at the center of the autism conversation?
So at my lowest point, I was on my bathroom floor thinking, I cannot do this. I cannot do this alone for the rest of my life. And I'll tell you, I have a wonderful husband. I have a beautiful family. I have so many friends. I have a great career. When you think of someone struggling, you wouldn't picture me. I say that in every keynote I give because people look at me and they're like, you've made it. It must be easy. You've done it. I'm telling you, I grieve every day. I have no idea what I'm doing every day. This is so hard. And there's no one to tell you what to do. So my friend and I created this nonprofit, and it's interesting you mentioned our retreats. We're actually leaving today to bring 120 moms to a camp. All of us have kids with special needs, and it is the most beautiful event you will ever see, to watch them laugh and cry and nap. Napping is the big one. But to find people who live the same life and to not have to defend yourself, to not have to say, but I love my son and autism is hard, but don't get mad at me. All these parts, and to just find your people. I always say isolation is the hardest part. So if I can bring them together virtually or in person, I think I've made my difference.
I mean, that's so important, because as moms, we pour so much into our children that we often forget our own wellness, right? And your work is a reminder that by healing ourselves, we're actually empowering our kids too. Now, Dr. Melillo, I know you had a question about burnout there.
Yeah. So, Kate, obviously there are many different therapies and people are, trying to do what they can to help their child. But a lot of parents, after years of doing that, there's a burnout. So how much do you feel that plays an influence in the progress that you've had with Cooper or that other parents might expect?
Burnout's huge. But also as a mom of 4 kids, I'm telling you, all 4 of my kids are hard. I just want to say that they each give me a run for my money at different times. But the difference with autism is it's forever. There's no break. There's no break if I have a cold. There's no break if I haven't slept or I have a retreat this weekend or holidays or vacations. Autism is always here. I think, honestly, for burnout, there's so many things that you can do. One of my least favorite terms is self-care. So if you ask me about that, I don't have any, honestly. So I don't have any right now. I'm not in that season of life. I go and I go. The thing that has made me a better mom, a better caregiver, a better everything is, again, I just keep bringing it back to finding community.
Yeah.
Finding people that I can laugh with, text at 3 a.m., and I don't always get to go. Cooper can't be alone. He's 14. He would need a babysitter. We don't have one. So it's not like I'm getting to dinner or drinks, but I can text them or I can FaceTime with them and we just laugh and cry. It's life-changing for me.
And your books, Forever Boy and Autism Out Loud, aren't just memoirs. They're actual movements. And the fact that Autism Out Loud became a New York Times bestseller shows the world is actually listening in a new way. So why do you think society is more ready now to hear autism stories? And what do you hope families take away from your books?
So don't quote me on this, but my co-author did some research on this, and there's only been roughly 5 books about autism that have ever made the New York Times bestseller list, and none with autism in the title. And I think it's because people don't want to talk about things that are sad. They really don't. Autism isn't always pretty. Our autism is really not always pretty. And, when I bring it up, I get, I'm so sorry, or they change the subject, or people just don't want to know what the realities of caregiving in this life are like. I talk about them. They're my norm. I just share. I just do, because then it doesn't own me. I think when Autism came out last April, Autism Out Loud came out last April, it was finally time. There were things happening, and people picked up this book and realized we're your neighbors. We're your coworkers. I'm just a mom. I'm just like a normal person you'll see at Target. And yet I have this really challenging, confusing, mysterious thing happening. Let's talk about it.
That's so powerful. And it feels like society is finally starting to trade stigma for empathy. Like Maya Angelou said, there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. And right now you're giving parents, and Dr. Melillo, you're doing the same thing. You're giving permission to speak their truth, which I find so empowering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, Kate, as you said, we talk about burnout and trying to understand how your child's brain works. But with my approach, and Zen and I have talked about this as far as neuroscience, do you feel like any professional has really explained to you what's happening in your son's brain? Like what is actually going on with autism in any way?
What's interesting about that is I have a chapter in one of the books where this little girl came up to me and she said, "What is autism?" And I remember I was like, "Buh." I mean, it's so interesting because I live it every single day and I can talk to you and give keynotes and write books about it, but it's a really complicated question. So, honestly, I can admit I probably can't say it as eloquently as I should be able to.
Right. And that's not on you. To me, it's on the caregivers. They should, obviously to be able to help a child, you should be able to understand what the problem is. Right. And that's where a lot of the burnout comes from, because what's your goal? You know what I mean? Like, what are you trying to do? If you have a therapy and says, well, we're looking to get to this, or there's a goal, or, then at least you have something to shoot for. You have like an end result where, with a lot of these therapies, there doesn't seem to be like an end goal and the answers, often are just from care. Well, that's autism. They never explain it. So that's where I felt it's so important and so empowering to parents when we can at least explain this is what's happening with your child's brain. And you may already be aware of this, but every child that we've looked at and studied, especially ones that are non-speaking or low speaking, they're geniuses with their left brain. I mean, they have incredible skills. They're amazing. And so, that's appreciating what is happening in the brain, I think, is really important and can help a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating.
Did you want to react to that, Kate?
Well, I was just thinking of this quote that really changed me. I heard it midway in my journey. It's, my child's not giving me a hard time. They're having a hard time. And that has really impacted me, because I think people look at autism and they're like, your life must be so sad. It must be so hard. Your child's so difficult. I can tell you with absolute certainty, Cooper is not a difficult person. He doesn't want to be. He doesn't, the world is hard for him to navigate. So, really shifting my mindset has helped me be better for him, I think.
So Dr. Melillo, what is actually happening in Cooper's brain right now?
Well, there are still, different research, different parts of the world. But for me, looking at a neuroscience, and we published papers on this, I think at the highest level, there's this functional disconnect between networks. The good news is there is no injury in the brain. There's no damage. There isn't any particular autism gene. There are different traits, but most of the issues are, have nothing to do with a genetic mutation. And there is this disconnect where their left brain is unusually strong and gifted. And the sequence of normal development, where the right brain usually develops first in the first 3 years and then the left brain takes over, that is disrupted, mainly because there's something called retained primitive reflexes, and there's other issues, but it alters that growth process slightly, not causing damage or a defect, but just that left brain comes online too early, and it holds back that right brain as well as these reflexes do. And the brain is more immature, the brain is unbalanced, and we see like tics or stimming or OCD, they come from overactivity of specific networks on the left. And then they, are not as connected to their body. They have low interoception. They don't know where their body is. They don't build these maps in their brain. And even though all the words are there, they can't speak because they tell us they don't feel their tongue. They don't feel their mouth. They don't know where their body is. And that they, also the right brain drives conversation. The social brain, we have a conversation because we want to share experiences and feelings, and the right brain is what generates that. And when they're not really connected to that, they don't have that drive. That's why they might not, approach other children when they're young, like, neurotypical children will. They don't have that drive to attach or connect. And that left brain prefers to be more isolated and in its own world. So, and this also has an impact on the body, on the gut, on the digestive system, on the immune system. And this is basically what we've been seeing is happening in the brain. And, again, it's something that can be changed, but again, it's not, understanding your child and being able to understand their brain and how it works and work with that is really so important.
Yeah. And it clearly shows that your work, and I mean, look, when you're a researcher and you see families looking for breakthroughs every day, but your work alongside what Kate is doing shows me something equally important, that breakthroughs can also happen in how families perceive autism, right? Not just in labs or clinics. That's a huge takeaway that I am coming to understand in having this interview here. Now, Kate, I'm going to pivot back to you. So you've lived the early days of confusion and grief and uncertainty, and now you stand as a voice of strength. Okay, so every mom listening or watching who's just started their autism journey is desperate for hope. What message do you most want those mamas to hear today?
It's going to sound so simple, but it's going to be okay. I think I was in such crisis in those early years. I have to get him talking. I have to get him to school. I have to get him potty trained and sleeping, and I have to get him caught up. I was frantic. I was a martyr, honestly. You probably wouldn't have even recognized me. I was going, a million miles a minute. I wish I would have had a crystal ball. I wish I would have seen Cooper and I now and our family. We have this beautiful family and we're happy. It looks different, but we are so happy. He's thriving. He's a freshman in high school. He plays Miracle League baseball. He has 2 best friends. I found out there's a girl in the lunchroom who's really loving him and not leaving him alone. And I'm like, what's happening? We went to the dentist yesterday. He had his first panoramic x-ray. I'm telling you, I would have thought he would have climbed Mount Everest before this x-ray. It gets better. And I'm not going to say autism necessarily gets better. I'm going to tell you, you get stronger. You build community. You find doctors that will help you, therapists, things that will make your life easier. So hang on, just hang on a little bit longer.
I'm holding back tears. Girl, you, Dr. Melillo.
Yeah. Kate, in your conversations with parents, what new approaches or shifts in thinking is giving you some optimism right now that you think is happening in society or in science or just in the media?
So I am so thankful that the conversations are happening. Now, I don't know what answers we're going to find. I don't know if people agree with the people researching or the people looking or any of this. But I'm telling you, as a mom who has felt silenced and alone for 14 years, finally people are talking about the life that I'm living and that Cooper's living. And I am intrigued to see what we figure out. And I see that in a lot of families too. It's not just me that are feeling that way. It's like, finally, people are starting to wonder why and how. And, Cooper is going to live in this world long after I'm gone. I mean, I'm going to be a caregiver until the day I die. And then someone else is going to, hopefully our family is going to help him and care for him. His siblings are going to have children. I mean, autism is going to affect our family forever. We'll never have a story without it. And I just am so thankful that people are finally talking about it.
Do you think that's played some role in you having a New York Times best-selling book? Is that conversation?
100%. I think our book came out right after the RFK stuff. So I think it really did. And I think what was so beautiful is that, I'm just holding the book, the way we positioned it is, this is the storytelling. So y'all know the science, you all know that part. This is the stories of the children and the moms and the siblings. And I think they really complement each other. So you can learn about the research, but then come read this and get a glimpse at this, this beautiful sunshine boy.
You've combined your lived experience with expert guidance, really, to build one of the largest autism communities in the world. And that's a rare and powerful bridge. And I see now how storytelling and science are working together, because you're creating a more hopeful and effective roadmap for families. It's truly it's really inspiring. I mean, we're at that pivotal moment, like Dr. Melillo said, where all eyes are on autism for whatever that reason. It's affecting more people than we know. So I think this kind of advocacy, demystifying stigmas surrounding autism and the perception around it, and really being proactive, this is where it all begins, Kate.
But I will say, I think we live in a bubble. So this is the uniqueness of the special needs world, especially autism. We live in these bubbles, I think, because we're surviving. And so we need to connect my people with your people. The conversation still isn't happening, I don't think. I don't know how to fix that part. So if anyone has ideas, how we just keep talking, keep the conversation going.
Yeah, Dr. Melillo is full of ideas.
Yeah. Is that, I go out, I'm out there all the time. And a lot of the most current conversation, I go to parties and people will say to me, hey, are they going to actually come out with what's causing autism? And these are people that don't have kids. And so there is an interest out there. And again, I think this blending right here, where I'm trying to bring the reality of the science, what is actually happening in the brain, because my goal is to try to give children their voice and to actually do it. And we do it all the time. We actually do it, in a very reproducible way. But, you have to understand why they can't speak and what is the actual problem to be able to do that. When you talk about trying to find a cause of autism, you can't really say that if you don't know what autism is, right? You can't define it, and you can't say, well, what are these things actually doing? But then from your standpoint, speaking to moms and parents and families and bringing that to families that maybe have never experienced this, I think that's so important as well. And hopefully the combination of these two things is what we bring forward. And I think the time is right, more than ever before.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. And we are at the end of our date, my friends. Kate, thank you for your courage and for giving voice to millions of families through Finding Cooper's Voice. And Dr. Melillo, thank you for helping us bridge that gap between brain science and the lived experiences of families like Kate and so many others listening, and just really being inspired by this conversation, because it's long overdue.
Thank you.
For our listeners, you can follow Kate's journey at findingcoopersvoice.com, and on the gram, where she's extremely active and full of engagement, you can go to Finding Cooper's Voice, and you can check out her books, Forever Boy and Autism Out Loud. You can also explore Dr. Melillo's groundbreaking work at drrobertmelillo.com. This has been the Brain Blueprint on A Moment of Zen, and remember, whether through story or science, there is strength in connection. We'll be right back after this.